So the majority of the meeting, if you've not been to any one of these before, or the meeting will be presented through the Miro board, we'll be hearing people speak. But we don't really need to sit in this Google Meet window. So you'll be looking at the Miro board. You can join the presentation that Lucinda started, and that will take you to what she's looking at, and then the presenters and tutors, they'll work through the slides kind of bit by bit. If you move away from the presentation, there's a wee option down the bottom that just says return to Elle, return to Lucinda, and that takes you back into the kind of presentation mode.
Cool. I'll mute my camera now as well.
Yep. So that looks good, Lucinda. I can see your screen.
Okay, great.
Perfect. Okay, Fiona, should we get started?
Absolutely. Do you want to hand over to me then, Lucinda?
Yes. There you go.
Brilliant. Thank you, Lucinda. Yeah, that's us. We're after 7. So good evening, everybody. Welcome back to everyone that was here at our first session a few weeks ago. We're going to follow the same format again this evening. So we are on the Miro board. We're on the welcome. And we've got our cursor part there on the left-hand side. So it's useful if you've got your cursor to park it there, just from etiquette, because it can get a bit distracting. You can turn everyone's cursor off, which I tend to do because I find it a bit distracting,
Right.
but a bit too much for me.
That's right. So if you want to turn off everyone's cursor, just use the menu at the bottom, and you should be able to find where to turn it off right at the bottom.
Absolutely. And down there at the bottom, we've got our emoji reactions, where from time to time we'll be asking you for a reaction, and you can access them from all from down there. And as Tony said earlier, you can, if you scroll away from the board that we're on, you can return back to the presenter at any point by using the return to come back again. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our presenters tonight. You've got me, Fiona, and Lucinda, who is also on this board at the moment. And we are...
Sorry, Fiona, do you want to move to the next slide just to...
Sure.
Know them?
Absolutely. Yeah, there we are. We can see everybody's bios. So we've got Connor on board as well. So it'll be the 3 of us tonight that we're presenting. And in the background, we've got our lead tutors, Mark and Tony. And they'll also be manning the chat. And if there's anybody got questions they want to post, any more information, Mark and Tony will be keeping an eye on that while we present and talk through the Miro board with you.
Right. The other thing is, if you want to use the Miro chat, sorry, Fiona, can you go back again? If you want to use the Miro chat.
Lucinda, honestly, move forward, move back.
If you want to use the Miro chat, you might have to sort of leave the chat for a second. And yes, right at the top, you should see the chevron. It looks like that, where my mouse pointer is. And you should be able to chat in, type into the chat where Tony and Mark will respond immediately. Okay.
Absolutely. I'm sure they're nodding in the background there.
Yes.
Okay. Lucinda, can I move boards on now? Is that
yes,
okay?
please. Thank you, Fiona.
Okay, good. So if we've got our time formats there, we are bang on time. We plan to finish at 8:30, and then we'll have our after party, which will be back on our Google Meet. Feel free to post any questions either in the Google chat or while we're in our session here on Miro in the Miro chat. There'll be quite a lot of opportunities for some feedback as well, because we don't want you all sitting there getting bored listening to us. Am I right, Lucinda?
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely. We want it to be as interactive as possible.
Yes, and please do keep in touch with Stacks if there's any questions or there's particular things that you would like us to cover going forward, because we have another 2 sessions coming up, then please send us your feedback, any comments, things we can cover. We'll be more than happy to receive it. Give me a thumbs up if any of you came to the first session. Brilliant. Excellent. That's good to see. So hopefully you're back because you found it useful. Okay, so now I'm going to hand over to my colleague Connor.
Yeah, you handed that over there, sorry.
You got it, Connor?
No, sorry. See if I can
Okay.
do this just now.
Let me try that again.
Yeah, there we
You
go.
managed to pick it up, cool.
Yeah, that's perfect. So if I just move across here for us just now. So in session 1, we spent time looking at analysis. For tonight, what we're going to do is we're going to focus on design.
Fiona, are you with us?
I'm with you.
Okay.
So what we're going to try and do is we'll have a focus on top level design and also for Dataflow as well.
Absolutely. The design was a topic that a lot of people wanted us to look at. And it's something that when we look at course reports and when we talk to markers, of which we have several higher markers here tonight, flagged up as being a difficult part of the course, particularly at higher, getting the design right. So we want to start with the big picture. And the big thing at higher, of course, is we're moving the pupils on to look at modular programming. Why are we doing this? Well, pedagogically, we want to build on their existing knowledge of programming, but move them on to the next level. So we're wanting to look at what do we already know from our N5 programming.
Yeah, so what we're wanting to try and do just now is, as you can see here, we've got the feedback board in front of us. We're going to try and get a bit of feedback first of all before we begin. We're looking just for you to type some reasons onto the post-it notes that you can see here on the screen why we think we're moving on to these sort of modular solutions from Nat 5 to higher. Why do you think that's the case?
Absolutely. So feel free, post your thoughts on here and let's have a look at them, and we can come up with the reasons, the advantages of what modular programming is.
Yeah, so if you just click on one of these white squares that we can see and then type in why we think that's probably the case. More like real world programming.
That's one of the things that I share with my guys. I try to tell them a little bit about what software development is like out there, or let's say what my experience has been of software development working in an IT company. I think it's quite difficult for pupils because all they've known for most of my guys is learning to program in class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well, I suppose at that higher level as well, your solutions are going to get bigger. And I think if you look at a longer term view to say advanced higher and maybe even further study, like going into the world of work, you want to try and develop good habits of sort of chunking and compartmentalizing the code. So you'd probably say the same thing maybe happens with English essays. You know, you want to use paragraphs to break up a big essay into smaller chunks. Maybe that analogy might help with some pupils.
Yeah, no, that's true, isn't it? Yep, to prepare for uni and work, team projects, absolutely, because that's what they'll be coming across for the majority of their time. We want them to get into the way of that. We want them to get into a more real world way of working, to think about in large projects that teams would be working on different elements of the software development program, and that each team could be working on its own modules, could be testing, debugging, before for a large project they put it all together.
Yeah, and we want to sort of control probably the data that's used in each model too. Your errors can sort of arise when you either mess up or you're mixing up the data. So if you can have sort of some control over variables and maybe larger, more modular programs, fingers crossed, you should have less errors in the code.
Absolutely, and that links back into when we were talking about evaluation in the last session. And at Hire, we noted for assignments that we want to evaluate the maintainability of solutions. And we were looking for them to, one of the things to bring out was maintainability in terms of modularity. Mm-hmm. And getting them to think of breaking the program down into logical self-contained modules or into functions to make the code easier to maintain, and get them to discuss that in terms of their evaluation. So to be thinking along these lines right from their design stage through their implementation and to evaluation, and thinking about it in a modular approach.
Yeah, just looking at the examples there on the screen as well, the ability to sort of reuse your modules as well is going to be a big advantage, because functions and modules, they can be reused simply just by calling them rather than having to rewrite that same code multiple times. So that's obviously going to save you time and reduce any redundant code within your solution.
Absolutely. My Hire guys have been doing that, well, last week. We were off today, not that I'm rubbing that into anybody, just saying, St Andrew's holiday. But last week they were working on one of the old courseworks, and it was the coursework with the mammals, the sighting of the mammals in the town, and they were to write a module that took the ASCII value for the first letter of either the mammal or the town, and it was the same module that obviously could be used for both things. And of course, my guys, their initial approach was to write two different modules, one that they could use for converting the name of the mammal, and one they could use for converting the name of the town that it was seen in. So that was a sort of I hope a teaching point, a learning point for them to realise this is the whole point of modularity and the reuse and making our code more efficient. That this could all be done by the one module, by the one subroutine.
That sounds similar to one of the previous coursework tasks as well, I think.
Yeah, I mean, this is a theme that we do see cropping up a lot, because modularity is the big change, isn't it, in our Hire programming, really?
I look at National 5. We do start to use functions in National 5, but we only use predefined functions.
Yes, yeah. We start to sow the seeds for user-defined functions here.
I think I'd probably recommend as well at Nat 5 still introducing the term parameters, because they need to get used to that, because as you can see here, we do use parameters in National 5. We maybe don't use those specific terms, actual and formal, but it's an essential part of what understanding how a function works.
Yeah, exactly, because the predefined functions all need some data to work with. And again, my N5's my third years, because we do it over 2 years. We've been looking at random and trying to sort of really drum it into them. Random number, what do we need? What are our parameters? We need the minimum and the maximum values for generating that random number. And for rounding, what do we need to Define for rounding, well, we need the original number, and we need how many decimal places it's going to be. And again, the length, well, what is it that we want to find out the length of? We need to find that string. So we need to specify that as a parameter. So just bringing in the vocabulary and getting them to see how both the syntax and whatever programming language you're using, but also to think about it and go, that is the parameters. That's how we're giving the computer the information.
Aye, so we need the function plus the parameters as the data that it needs. Just as a quick question to anybody who's joined us this evening, does anyone go straight to functions when they teach Nat 5? I know it's not sort of required for the National 5, but maybe some of you teach it just because it's probably good programming practice or anything like that.
Yeah, give us a thumbs up if you go in for functions at N5.
Got to be honest, I don't do it, but it's just in case anyone does.
Do you know, I have tried it both ways actually. When I worked in West Lothian, we went straight for functions, and I kind of got away from it. But in many ways, it's not a bad idea, is it?
Yeah. Peter, is that you saying you use or you teach functions at National 5? Sorry,
it was kind of like a halfway house. So what we do is when we get onto predefined functions, we introduce the term actual parameter in terms of the information that's being passed in, so that they're and we get them to kind of spot actual parameters when they're doing a bit of code comprehension. And then obviously when we go to higher, we then talk about formal parameters when we talk about defining functions and procedures. So we don't really tend to teach the whole class how to define their own functions and procedures at National 5, but we certainly kind of give them the idea about what a function does and the sort of term actual parameter before they see obviously the formal one.
Yep.
Aye, that sounds good. That's again, I wasn't even thinking about just maybe choosing one of them, but the actual parameters, because that's exactly what we use that in terms of Nat 5. So yeah, it's quite a good way of doing it. Slide 1C for us just now, and what we'll do is we'll look at just some simple modules, and we've tried to identify 3 different ways of how you would call one of them.
Yeah, if we look at the first one up at the top there, version 1, that is what the pupils, or many of the pupils, want. They want to see the formal and actual parameters matching up, or many of them do. And for most tasks, this is acceptable, and it could be an initial introduction to formal and actual parameters, and it could make the code initially more readable, because in this one here, we can see rainfall, and we can see rainfall as both a formal and an actual parameter there. And so there's potentially less confusion for them.
Yeah, the second version there is when you've got the name of the actual parameters and they're different from the formal parameters that are being used there. So that's for the second version, just the one in the middle.
Yep. And when discussing this with a class, they may not see why it's important until we get to the third example, when we're using the same subroutine twice.
So for version 3 there's pretty much no way around formal and actual parameters being named differently. You're reusing it obviously in lines 9 and 10.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, this is an opportunity for reiterating to them the advantages of modular code. Yeah,
and I think just probably looking at this here as well, you're very, very unlikely, for the first example, you're unlikely to sort of see that within maybe like exam questions or anything where you've got your formal and your actual parameters being identical. You're more likely to see it versions 2 and 3. For topic 1D, as we're starting to work with modules, you'll begin to see that local and global variables become a key concept for us.
Yep, we want the pupils to know the purpose and the benefits of using local over global variables and know in practice how to code them.
Yeah, so this is an example from, I think it's last hire paper. And what we want to try and do is to identify the scope of the variables used in this task.
Absolutely. So if we start with locals, anything declared inside the function must be a local declaration, must be a local variable. And we see that, thank you, Connor. Yep, up there. So we've got a local one pointing out in line 2 and in line 3, because they are all declared inside this check palindrome function.
Yeah, so we've got left, right, and we've got valid palin, which is there, and then our two global ones that we can see.
If we go further down, that's right, then we'll see that our global variables are declared outside of that function block.
So we'll have user word, and we'll also have palindrome as well. So they would be our two examples for the global ones, because they're out with the function. So what can go wrong if we're using these global variables incorrectly? So hopefully when we're looking at the local and the global from the previous slide there, should hopefully be familiar to us, but we want to try and identify if we're using these global ones incorrectly, where can we go wrong?
Yep. So if we look at this, we can see that found, I, and name are declared as variables up there in lines 1 to 3 in this code block. If we look at it with declaring these globally, can we predict what the output from this program would be?
Yeah, so we'll give you just a moment just to read over it. It's obviously, we've got the procedure there from lines 5 to 19, and we've got our 3 possible answers at the left-hand side, A, B, and C. Now I can't see the chat here at the moment, but what we'll maybe ask is if we could just do a quick thumbs up, and I'll just try and run through each of these different answers, whether we think it would be A, B, or C. So if we think that the answer would be A, could I ask you to give a thumbs up just now? And if we think the answer would be B, could we give a thumbs up? One person, a couple. And what about C? And we've got a couple for C as well. Right, so I'm going to, fingers crossed, this bit here move so I can show you. So what's actually going to appear is
It worked. Yeah.
item and list price for B. So the reason why this is going to be the case, if we are searching for Ed in line 21, we can see that found is going to end up as true. So when we search for John, the conditional loop at line 6 won't execute. And the conditional statement down at line 13 is going to display a true message. There's nothing in there that's going to allow us to either change it back to false before we start searching for the second name within that procedure.
Absolutely. So this shows us the importance here of global and local, and a quick introduction to modularity. If we could have some feedback, please. Was this introduction helpful to you? Is there other suggestions that anyone can share that you find helpful when teaching pupils these techniques? We'd love you to type any suggestions into our post-it note board here that we're on. Sure. I mean, one of our issues we've had up there is pupils wanting to make everything global. Absolutely. So it all works. And I don't know about anybody else. What do you think in terms of the different programming languages and the use of global and local variables? Do you think particular languages lend themselves or make it easier? Anyone got any thoughts? Lucinda, what do you think? You've got several languages running in your classes, haven't you?
No, it's very, very similar across the board, really. In the way you use global and local variables. It's very, very similar.
Well, I don't know. I mean, in Python, it doesn't seem like you have to do any of the pass by reference stuff or anything like that.
No. I think Python makes it a little bit, because you don't have to be so explicit, perhaps, and by reference and by value with Python. Maybe does it make it less obvious in some ways?
Maybe, but it certainly makes it easier.
Yes, yes.
Yeah, I've said this before and I've been ridiculed for it, but I use live code. But
No, we're not laughing.
But whenever I'm getting my pupils to do their programs at a higher level, I'll get them to try and complete the program first, and then when they have to then try and use the sort of parameter passing in terms of between the functions and procedures, they're having to use by value and by reference, and just the slightest wee mistake and it won't make the program run, and then they'll start looking for errors in their actual code when sometimes, you know, their code's function.
Yeah, it's
should
a parameter
be
passing that's caused
and
that.
it's a parameter, and they just can't see that. So yeah, it's a problem sometimes. It's occurring usually in coursework time.
It's interesting. Someone's written here, Python is a bit too helpful at times. I do agree with that statement.
Yes. Yeah. It's both good and bad, isn't it? Yeah, in terms of teaching it.
Python creates a new variable in a local sense. You have to state you want to use the global variable of the same name. That's an interesting one.
Yeah, that's an interesting Python mechanic there. If it's a variable.
People have struggled with the
difference between functions and sub-procedures in Python. It's something that can be pupils can struggle with, but we will have a look at that in a bit.
Yes, it's an interesting one to explain, isn't it, when we talk about functions and procedures using Python and the theory of it.
Well, I mean, I've just said to them that if it returns something, it's a function. If it doesn't, it's a procedure.
That's right. It's absolutely.
Yeah.
That's absolutely right.
I can't read this one. It's probably my eyesight. Can anybody else read it? Lucinda, you've got good eyesight. What does that one say?
I'm the only one wearing glasses, Fiona.
Well, I've got my glasses on, but I feel as if
you
I
can
might need
zoom
a
in.
second pair. I feel as
By
if
the
I
way,
might-
everyone, you can zoom in if you hold on Control on your scroll bar. So it says it's always difficult to get them to make a clear distinction between formal and actual parameters. That's absolutely true.
Yeah.
One way is to use concrete values as the actual parameters first, or to provide different variables in the main program from the formal parameters. Absolutely, especially what we just talked about earlier, by using completely different names. That's a good way to differentiate between your formal and actual parameters. Well, Fiona and Connor just went over that earlier. Extra code leads to more bugs and harder for us to debug. Yes, that's right, at higher level. Yes, and that's why we have to use modular programming, because if it's in modules, it makes it a lot easier to find where the bugs are within the program. It makes it a lot easier to detect where the bugs are if you're using modular programming. Okay, Connor, do you want to just handle?
Yeah, you should have control of it now, I think.
That's fine.
Yeah, no,
Okay,
thanks for your comments, everybody. We'll include that, obviously, in what we distribute.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so next we are just going to go on to Dataflow. So as we move on to slide 2A, we start to consider data flow, the parameters being passed in and out of each module.
Yeah, this is probably one of the bigger issues we see with assignments. We discussed earlier. Pupils can rely on global variables to allow their modular programs to work, basically.
Yeah. So moving on to slide 2B. This is an extra wide slide that has a problem with a top level design. We're basically going to complete the data flow. We'll give you a minute to just have a read through so it's not too rushed.
Yeah, so looking at this one here, we've got a program that's going to read in data from a file and into a parallel array.
Yeah, absolutely. Then we have step 2, 3, and 4. Basically going to apply some higher algorithms to the arrays.
Yeah, and the output is to the screen and writing some results to file as well.
So it's basically worth pointing out that that some of the parameters are arrays. Now, it's always good to point this out to pupils. What are arrays? When we have a look at all our variables over here, arrays are the ones with the brackets. So we do have some normal variables here, and we also have some arrays, and the arrays are the ones with brackets.
Yeah, we just got a wee head start there from a couple of them dragging those ones across.
Peter's on fire there. Great.
Oh,
Yeah,
sorry.
so when it comes into the assignments, so those brackets are the key things that we're looking for, because if it's no there, they're going to, if the brackets aren't there to highlight that it's arrays, that's when they're going to start losing marks.
Does it matter what kind of brackets it is?
No, I don't think the type of brackets would necessarily count as long as I've indicated that brackets are there. I know that previously, just off the top of my head, there's been exam questions before where square brackets have been used. Sometimes it's the sort of curved brackets that you can see there. So I wouldn't say the type of brackets matter.
Yeah.
I would say it's more that the brackets are there.
Okay. I think someone is jumping ahead and moving the variables around. If you could just hold up for a second. Okay. So nothing can be passed into step 1, as you can see, since it is being read from a file. The data is read in from a file, then passed out to be used later. So we will have basically 4 arrays, as you can see here. Someone has jumped the gun and placed all our out parameters for us. That's fine.
That's good. Anybody that saves us work, Lucinda, is good.
Yeah. So we have 4 arrays, names, categories, scores, and ID num passed out.
Yeah, so moving on to, so step 1's done there for us. So moving on to step 2, when we're searching for a user, we can type in a name or a contestant's number in order to find a category. So we would need for this, we'd need the names. We'd also need the ID number, and we would also need the category as well. So they would be the 3 things that are passed in for this search here. I'll see if I can fit that in there, sorry. So they're the 3 things that are passed in for that search. The scores isn't used at this stage, so it's not passed in. And the category is displayed in step 2, so nothing's required to be passed out just yet.
Yeah, that's right. So step 3, to find the average score, we just need the scores array passed in. So we need the scores arrays passed in. The scores arrays is used to calculate the average. You can see that this average value is used in step 5, so average must be passed out.
So you want to drag those 2 across, yeah.
The fact that the earlier bit's got an or, that would confuse students, because if it's or, that implies we don't need all 3.
Whereabouts is that? Sorry.
Year 1 for step 2.
Step 2.
Allow the user to enter the contestant number or name to display their category.
Yeah, so the wording, so perhaps the wording shouldn't necessarily be or, should be
Yeah.
and then.
And should be, yeah, that's right.
Mhm.
Okay,
Yeah,
moving
that's
on
a
to
fair
step
point.
4, Connor.
Yeah. Sorry, yeah, moving on to step number 4 there. So for step number 4, although this is just a running total with an average calculation, we'll need it later in step number 5. So this would mean we'd probably only need to pass in the array of scores. Nothing else would be passed in for this one. And then as in step 3, we need to avoid passing in any unnecessary parameters, because if you pass in unnecessary ones, then you would be losing marks. But obviously when step number 4 is finished, we're going to have this average that we've found.
Okay, so for step 5, we display and write the file. So we will need our scores, names, category, and average. And also, obviously, our average parameter that we calculated in step 4. So these would all be passed in as parameters.
And then something that maybe our pupils would likely do as well when it comes to one of these steps would be put in output file as an out parameter.
So can you give a thumbs up if you think the output file should be used as an out parameter at this step?
Or a different type of reaction if you think that wouldn't be the case. And that was the bit we were going to see if anyone would sort of
Give us a thumbs up. That's right.
That's it. Yeah. So
you all did really well on this one. Yes, although this is one of the misconceptions we see when marking. The file is an output from analysis and requirements point of view. However, it is not a parameter. Obviously, it should not be identified at Dataflow, as you all absolutely recognize that. So,
could I just say as well that
yes,
obviously we're all emphasizing it's not an input when it's coming from a file, it's not output when we're writing to a file. But does anyone else find that their pupils kind of take a shotgun approach of, if in doubt, put all the parameters in and put all the parameters out if they're not entirely 100% sure of what they should be? Is anyone else finding that?
Yep.
In the beginning, but I kind of warned them off of that.
Yeah, exactly. I tend to tell them that's the one of the few times when putting down too much information is actually, dangerous. You're going to lose a mark.
And I think that's what probably makes it so difficult as well, because you're unlikely to be told just how many sort of parameters you're expected for each stage. And just as as we've said there, that one extra one can obviously cause you to lose the mark, which is at this stage, for hire is crucial for the pupils. So
basically, I'm sure you could all have completed that task easily, as you all showed. But how do we support our pupils to learn this? What sort of pedagogical strategies can we apply to this concept that candidates often feel or find difficult?
Yeah, so what we're going to try and do is we're going to try and suggest just a couple of ideas. So maybe try these if some pupils are struggling, or you can choose a strategy that you think would probably best suit yourself in your practice. So we'll show you a couple of these just over the next few slides.
Yeah, that's right. So Fiona, I'll hand it over to you for your post-it.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. Yes.
Speaking Fiona. There we go, Fiona.
Okay, perfect. All right, so I'm going to move us on now. Good job on that one. Okay, so some ideas here, a couple of ideas talking about how we can maybe get the message through to pupils. So the first strategy that we've been looking at and discussing and have some of us have been using is to make the concept of passing the parameters more concrete and visible by using actual post-it notes in class, not the virtual ones that we've been using on Miro here tonight, and actually giving out stacks of different coloured post-it notes to pupils. So getting some pupils to stand up and giving them a pile of post-it notes and making each pupil a module in our programme.
Yes, I think we had said that for this one here, if there was 3 steps, then you could maybe choose, I think, 3 pupils and give each one of them a packet of post-it notes, so that each pupil would be a module, and then you could ask sort of like the step 1 person what variables they're using and which ones they would need to be given to anybody else.
Absolutely. So get them to write down the variables and then to pass on to, person that's doing module number 2, and to think about which of the post-its they want to pass on to number 2. In this example here, we'd be talking about person 1 passing out weight and height to person number 2.
Yeah, so person number 2, they do the same. So which variables do they need to physically hold before they can actually do their job? So which variables do they calculate and pass on to someone else? Person 2 would obviously get the weight and the height. And then once they've got them, they would have to then calculate the BMI. And once they've got that value, they can decide upon the category.
Pass it on to person number 3, so that category, so that it can be displayed. And person number 3 would get that post-it note. So you can see the advantages for this one, the actual physical passing of variables. Nice way to visualize something that for some pupils is quite an abstract concept.
Yeah, and it might be able to lead you on to the discussion of local variables as well. So if someone writes a local variable on a post-it, but they never give it to anyone else, they can see that it doesn't need to be a parameter that can be passed. So wouldn't be part of the data flow. BMI might be a good example of a local variable here.
Absolutely. Okay, so I'm going to pass over to Lucinda till we look at another.
Yeah, that's fine. Fiona, if you just hand over.
Let's have a look at the next strategy.
Thank you. Okay, so next we are going to have a look at the work from the end pedagogy. I really do like this one. It's a really, really good strategy for completing data flow. So in this example, we'll basically work from the end. So I would teach our pupils to begin to work from the end.
Aye, so it seems a wee bit counterintuitive, I think, if you're maybe starting with the final module. But if we consider what needs to be passed in here, then it might be easier for us to identify and know what needs to be passed out further up. So like your previous steps.
Yeah, that's right. So here for an example, looking at the task, maybe we should give them a minute to read through the task, Connor.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah, we'll just give everyone just a minute just to read through the task. Okay, so we have an example here, searching for the number of words, characters, vowels, and consonants. What data does the final step need in order to perform its function, in order to display the results? Obviously, we will need the words, consonants, characters, and vowels. So these would be passed in. I just type that in here. and fit it in.
You want me to type this, Lucinda? Are you typing? Sorry.
Yeah, I am typing. So vowels and characters. Okay, so basically these are the data that the final step needs in order to perform its function. I spelled it right. Yes, Connor?
Yeah, I just can't. I can't see any of the text appearing up on the screen.
Oh, you can't see the
so
text?
I can see it now. Yeah, that's it.
Now?
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I was zoomed in. Okay, sorry.
No, that's
Connor.
all right. That's
Mhm.
okay. Yeah. So the words, constants, vowels, and characters. Yeah. So they'd be the variables holding those sort of four totals. So yeah, they should be the steps going in. Or sorry, they should be the variables going in for step 6.
Yeah, that's right. So if these are passed into step 6 to make it happen, they must all have been passed out earlier on. So where would they have been passed out from?
Yeah. So if we maybe look at, let's say, step number 4. So vowels are counted in step 4. So that must be passed out here. Consonants would be coming out of step number 5. And then we'd be looking for, where are we? So words coming out of step number 2. And then characters coming out of step number 3.
Yeah, that's right. So as you can see, they've been added as out parameters from step 2 to 5. So if they are calculated in those steps, what data do they need in order to perform the calculations?
Yeah, so they need the big chunk of text that's stored in the variable text input. And this was a wee bit that's kind of confused me when I'd first sort of looked at this example of the second pedagogy that we're looking at here. But just reading through it again, the data will be read into a single string called text input. So that's the thing that's going to be passed in as a parameter for steps 2 to 5. So we would have our text input, and I'm just going to copy this just now. So this is going to go into step number 3. It's going to go into step 4 and also step number 5 as well.
Yeah, that's right. Well done, Connor. So basically, having a look at the parameters that are passed in. So if text input is passed in, what must have been passed further up in the program?
Yeah, so it's obviously got to have came out of step number 1 there. Hopefully means that we don't have any mismatched parameters. As we've said, it's a different method. Perhaps you might find this useful to use. So if we've not got any of those mismatched parameters, any data that's passed out wouldn't be passed in and sort of vice versa.
Okay, next we are going to have a look at identifying data flow from code pedagogy. So let's just move on to 2C part 3. So another way we can develop the understanding of data flow is to give pupils code and get them to fill in the data flow.
Yeah, so this is probably a good practical skill, giving them examples of working data flow. So if they can see data being passed in and out in the code that you give them, then they can use that model to sort of build their own modular solutions.
Yeah, that's right. So here we see some Squirrel or the SQL reference language, but you could also do this in your preferred language.
Yeah, I think as we've already spoken about there earlier, everyone's sort of using different programming languages, so that's what I sort of tend to do. Very rare you find an example in live code. So whenever we are trying to do this in class, we'll obviously take the programming language that we see and try and convert it into what we would maybe expect them to produce within a coursework task. So the main program here, lines 14 to 16, and then we've got our procedures in lines 1, 5, and also in 9.
Okay, so basically norm list must have been passed out from step 1 and into step 2.
Yep, and then we've got prime, which is going to be passed out. So I'll type this in here. Sorry, prime's passed out of step 2 and into step 3.
Yeah, so Squirrel doesn't really help us spot in and out parameters, but in some specific examples, we are going to look at some specific examples.
Yeah,
Which
just
might
very
help
quickly
make
there
it
as
more
well,
clear.
you're obviously wanting to make sure that if we're using, as it says there, arrays, you got to make sure, and I'm just about to do this just now, sorry.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yes, at the very end, you've got your brackets as well. All right.
Yeah, that's fine.
So that's obviously crucial for us at higher level. Need to be able to indicate that we're using our arrays and variables. And so, of course, sometimes records as well.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, just moving on to the final approach to support students in learning is to redraw the data flow table.
Yeah, so this is again, I've probably used this quite often as well in some of my classes, and I think everybody here as well, we're probably going to have at some point in our class, in our teaching, there will be one pupil, maybe a couple, and they just don't get it. They just we'll try and explain it as many possible ways that we can, and they just still can't sort of pick it up or understand it. So maybe redrawing the table so that it looks a bit like this might help us out and might make that difference for that particular pupil or pupils.
Yeah, that's right. So usually in the SQA exams and assignments, they'll generally use data flow in a structured diagram or the table where the in and out are to the right of the step, as we've seen.
Yeah, so right.
Mhm.
You're probably going to be unlikely to see this in terms of the way that it's laid out. But if we redraw the diagram to have it in this form, sort of in, and then what the step is, and then out, hopefully that small change can show that in parameters need to come from before the actual step happens. So sometimes getting that process in mind can make it a wee bit more easier for them to understand.
Yeah, that's right. Connor, do you mind typing in for me because my keyboard's
I know worries. No
Thank
problem.
you. So obviously on this slide, we need to basically pass out the item array and the price array. So if you could just pass that out for us for this task.
He's beating me to it.
I hope you've had a chance to just read through the task. It's just a very simple one. So from step 1, we see the price going into step 2 and VAT coming out.
Yeah, and then so that's going into step 2 as well. So that would be our price here.
Yeah.
And then if we are going into, if we look at the VAT and the price, sorry, that's going to be going into step number 3. And then your total is going to be coming out of that as well. And before item and total would obviously go into step 4. So I'll put them in here just now for us. So our item.
Item array and the total array. Yeah.
And again, I know I'm saying it and keep reiterating it, but again, those, if we are just putting in the names of it and we're not actually putting in the brackets, that's, again, we're going to lose the marks for it. So it's always crucial we just keep reiterating that to the pupils as well. If it's arrays we're using, we need to make sure we've got those brackets.
Yeah, that's right. So basically, hopefully the different strategies we've used today, you find something useful here. The post-it notes, the work from end strategy, all these examples that we've talked about today would be available in a Google Doc, and we will share it at the end of tonight's session.
Yeah, so see if we can just bump onto that. I think we've got another slide here, Lucinda.
Okay.
So we
Moving
can,
on to
yeah. Just so I can quickly see. Aye, there it is there.
Okay.
Sorry. So yeah, again, this is another opportunity. Maybe there's some strategies that you use in class that maybe haven't been shared just there. Are any of those three examples, do you think any of them are useful? Do you think there would maybe be ways that you could possibly put that into your own learning? How would you maybe possibly change it? But basically, what do you do? You know, if there's a pupil in class that you think's really struggling, how can they maybe try and what do you do in class to maybe try and improve their understanding?
Yeah, if you can just type into the feedback. So any strategies that you've used that you've maybe not mentioned here tonight that you found very useful to introduce Dataflow to pupils. If you can just type that in, that would be great. The work from end strategies, and I mean, some people might find it unusual, but it's actually one of my favorites. I find it very, very useful.
Yeah, I find it quite a logical strategy because if you haven't got it, at the end there to be able to use it, then you have to start stepping it back and find out where it's coming from, don't you?
Yeah, that's right.
So we could be using, example programs, maybe a bit of scaffolding, we
Yeah.
could have some parameters missing for them to complete. Yeah, that'd be a good example. Yeah, so
Yeah, definitely 4. I'm thinking of actually sort of pre-drawing that on some of my questions, having that available for some of them.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
So as they see the in and out better.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Lucinda, I am zooming in here. I haven't had to put on a second pair of glasses note. And then I would begin to look like the guy off of, the repair shop that wears 2 pairs of glasses for doing his clock repairs, which is always like absolutely fascinating, but I only have 1 pair of glasses. First module is almost a function to work something out to be used later.
Has anyone tried the storytelling strategy as well? That's another one. It's an interesting one.
Yeah. Just told my pupils any input will be passed out of a module. Yep. And if a module didn't calculate and display within a module, it would be passed onto a module. Yep.
The rubber duck.
Yes, one of my boys in advanced higher loves the rubber duck idea.
Must admit, that's not one I've done, no.
Well, I have to admit, we don't have a rubber duck in the classroom, but we do have a couple of virtual people that have joined the class and who get photoshopped into several class pictures. So sometimes the cut out of the virtual person is the rubber duck. And we're explaining it to the virtual person.
Providing program with parameters. That's a really good strategy. Providing program with some parameters missing for them to complete. Yeah, that's a good one.
Yes. I like that in the homeworks.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so Fiona, I'm just going to wait, someone is just typing something else. Right? Not done yet, but for next hires. Okay, that's fine. I'll just hand over to you. Hopefully I do this safely.
Safety first. Thanks, Lucinda. Okay, so thanks for your feedback there, folks. It will all be distributed as part of this. So now we'd like to move on, conscious of the time, we want to move on and look at some misconceptions that we see when candidates are attempting Dataflow questions and implementing Dataflow or answering questions about Dataflow. This is in exams, but more often in the assignment. we see some key mistakes repeated over and over.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the first key mistake here is we often have matching actual and formal parameters. Some pupils think that, most pupils, I would say initially, think that the formal and actual parameters always have to match.
Absolutely.
And that it is a syntax error to have differently named formal and actual parameters.
Yeah, absolutely. And they spend a lot of time going through it to make sure that they do match. Or when they see different names for formal and actual, they don't really understand the mechanism of passing the values. They don't understand what's behind it.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, I think what is really key is that we reiterate how formal and actual parameters can have the same name, or they can also have different names.
Yeah, going back to the examples 1, 2, and 3 that we showed earlier. But if we look at this one on this misconceptions, the first misconceptions board here, we look down to line 24, where we've got search subjects computing. So down there, we're calling the search procedure with 2 actual parameters, an array of string called subjects, and a string variable holding the value computing.
Yeah, basically when calling a procedure, the actual parameters are mapped to the formal parameters based on their order. So subjects is mapped to list, and computing is marked to target.
Yep. Inside the procedure definition, sorry, I've got my cursor. I'm not part of my cursor there, apologies. Inside the procedure definition, the code uses the formal parameter names to reference the values passed in. So it performs the search on the list array looking for computing.
Yeah, so in lines 25 and 26, the code seems to be highlighted. Fiona, can you just click on the screen just once, maybe to select it?
Sure, yeah, I don't know. It's not
Seems to be, yeah, there we go. Thank you. So in lines 25 and 26, we rerun the search procedure. So 25 and 26, you just follow my.
26.
Okay, we rerun the search procedure, but with different parameters, as you can see here. So the actual parameters differ, but each time an array and a string are given to the procedure to work with. So the actual parameters have got completely different names, but each time an array and a string are given to the procedure to work with.
Yes, using examples like this, we can do 2 things. We can show them that formal and actual parameters don't need to match.
Yeah, another big advantage of using modular programs is a module can be used or called more than once. So performing the same task, but on different data. I mean, if you show to them that obviously we can call this module search as many times as we need to,
Yes.
and just pass in completely different names for the actual parameters, it would still be matched as expected.
Yeah, and I think that's a good way, because I know my pupils initially would want to write an identical or virtually identical module for each time they needed to use search, because initially they would be thinking, well, I'm using it on different parameters, because they don't really get what's behind it to begin with.
Yeah, that's right. Should we move on to?
Yeah, I'm gonna move us along here.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's have a look at this. The next misconception is to do with our data flow, and more specifically with files.
Yeah, I do see this a lot, and I think it's to do with a mix-up between passing in parameter and inputting data.
Yes. Often the first step in our top level design is to get data, and the final step is to output it. And I think, yeah, it does come back to the in and out, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So pupils usually think input data equals passed in, and output results equals passed out.
Yeah, I mean, I think it even certainly on mine sometimes goes right back to, you know, the IPO diagram that we do initially for, well, you know, I do it in S2 computing, where we talk about, and I emphasize the input and output so often that they've got that fixed in their heads right through to this stage. Yeah, so on the first step of top level design, yeah, they're thinking in, that is data getting passed in, and the last step being out is data getting passed out.
Yeah, that's right.
And when we, of course, when we move on to them using files, then it becomes even more pronounced because they know that they're writing code to open and read a file, to read the data in, don't they? And again, very often at higher, they are outputting data to another file because that's usually part of the assignment, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. So when files are involved, it just becomes a lot more pronounced. So what we have to think about modules. So like a button in a relay race, a subprogram passes on a data item to another subprogram, and I can see why the file is getting in from somewhere. So they think it is an in parameter.
Yep.
And if a file is output, the data is coming out of the program. So people immediately think, that is incorrectly an out parameter. So outputting is not passing out because the button is not being passed to another subprogram.
Absolutely. Okay, let's move on to the next one. All right, so a big tip we want to share and want to pass on to pupils is in the building of modular programs to match a design. And I think they struggle. I know my guys struggle with this a bit.
Yeah, that's right. I mean, this is so pertinent for higher candidates in February and March working on assignments. We can't help them, obviously, during the assignments. So with the design they are given, they have to create a working modular program.
Yep. Our advice here is to build a skeleton of the program with the subprogram stubs showing the parameter passing.
Yeah, I mean, this is absolutely critical. I mean, if you follow this, it's a lot easier for pupils to develop their code from the design. So create the stubs with absolutely no code.
Yes, yes. So on our board here, we've got our data flow table showing our data flow, and we've got our skeleton code structure. And this one, it's SK reference language. We've got our stubs, no code. Get the structure and then build the modules and test each module by module.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, if they build their stubs, it does help a lot. It ensures that the program matches the design and that data flow is implemented, but it also allows people to test one module at a time. So they're not in too much of a rush to get it all done at once and then end up with a bunch of bugs.
Yeah, because they want to sit down and write the whole thing to begin with.
Yeah, that's right.
Not necessarily following the design, are they? And inevitably, they've got all sorts of bugs, and it's a huge task. They lose themselves in trying to get it running, don't they?
Yeah,
the implementing the file handling. Obviously, we haven't seen the assignment yet for this year, but call it an educated guess, if you will. I'm sure there's going to be file handling on it.
I think it's been in every coursework.
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, emphasize to them, get the file handling, make sure it's working, get the stubs, check that it's matching your design, check that you've got your data flow is going to follow the design before you get stuck into the coding.
Yeah,
because
that's right.
Yeah, because I think we said the last time as well, generally we see now that we've got really a good standard of implementation, haven't we? We've got a good standard of code, but where they tend to be losing more marks in the assignment is in
data
the
flow.
evaluation, in the design stages, things like this, where it's not matching.
Yeah, that's right. So once they've obviously set up their structure, And then they can then start to obviously code and test the next module, building it module by module. And obviously, I mean, later on we'll look at some programming languages. Some programming languages makes it a lot easier to do this, while others, pupils might be much more tempted to just try and build the entire program at once.
Yeah. This one here with our SQA reference language, same as we saw earlier, but we've got the stubs in it. So let's look back at the data flow table. We've got it already completed. We are showing our arrays. We're showing them being passed in and out. We're showing the searches and calculations and so on.
Yeah, so remember that parallel arrays being passed out, then searches and calculations and procedures being carried out, as well as information is outputted to screen, written to a file at the end.
Absolutely. Let's look at this SQA reference language in a bit more detail. This could be how it's represented in an exam, could be their assignment, or on the marking scheme. What can we see here on slide 3B?
So basically on slide 3B, we can see 1, 2, 3 procedures. So 1, 2, 3 procedures, as you can see here, from lines 1 to 11, and then we've got obviously and we've also got a function.
Yeah,
so
there we are.
Yeah, so we've also got a function, then another procedure on lines
18 through 20. Yeah.
So those 5 steps obviously match the 5 steps of the top level design that you can see on the left.
Yep, from over here.
Then down the bottom, I can see these modules being called on lines 22 to 27, as you can see over here. Yeah. Oh, Fiona, you beat me to it.
Okay. And what about the parameters then?
So in Scroll, it looks like all parameters are in the brackets of the subprogram declaration. So in the declaration, moving on to when they are called, the actual parameters match the number of parameters and data type. And in this case, the names of the formal parameters too. It is absolutely critical. I mean, in some languages, it might be a bit easier, but I know that in Java and VB, if the data type doesn't match, then obviously immediately you get, error messages, or you get a red line underneath your parameters.
Right. Okay. Functions here can look a bit different. So if we look at this find average here, we can see that it's returning the average value.
Yeah. So as you know, a function returns a value. So this is the definition of a function. Functions return a result. However, procedures just execute a series of statements but do not return anything.
Yes. And to build on the structure we've got, we don't need to do very much once they've got this. Look at the main steps and look at the data flow.
Yeah, absolutely. That's why actually creating the stubs is really, really useful. Yes, so basically identify if any modules would be functions as they return a value. So if you create the stub, you can immediately see which ones are procedures and which ones are functions, because obviously functions must return a value, so they have to be coded differently. And obviously functions are also coded differently in different languages, which we will later on look at.
Yep. So this could be a good time to look at the same program with the same problem with the same bare bones structure, but we'll look at it with our most commonly used languages.
Yeah, that's right. So let's start with the most popular language, Python.
Your favorite?
Okay.
I think Marcus would say about 2/3 or more of the higher SDD assignments are coded in Python. That's true.
Yeah.
Anyone want to give us a thumbs up? Any of the
code in
teachers
Python?
out there that are using Python?
Probably going to be everyone.
Absolutely. There you go. Connor, should I ask for live code thumbs up here?
Not
Yeah,
yet.
listen, that's
Yeah,
why I put that angry face there. I'm the one who put it on there.
Oh, did you see
There's
what
no
happened
live
with
code,
live
people.
code? You see what I mean?
Oh, it's not fair if the same person just keeps putting angry faces. Okay, so moving on. Slide 3C here. This board that we're looking at. Exactly the same structure for exactly the same problem, but now our stubs of the program are for Python.
Because the Python doesn't really make the distinction between the keyword function and procedures like Squirrel. I'm sure most of you know that, or some other languages. But in step 4, Fiona, if you can highlight step 4 for me, we see a value returned for step 4. So obviously find average is acting like a classic function because the value is returned, average is returned.
Yes, sorry, Lucinda, I was behind
that's
you
okay.
there. Whereas get details, search user, find elite max act like procedures. They produce an effect, they're doing something, but they're not returning a value.
Yeah, that's right. I think Python teachers just need to focus on modular programs with Dataflow that match design. So for exam purposes, learn that functions return a single value. Those are the key concepts for our higher classes.
Yes.
Okay,
so I'm going to move us on to Visual Basic now. Absolutely.
Yes, I do like VB.
Yeah, you're home ground here, Lucinda.
Yes, VB.net. I do like VB. Yes.
Okay, so here's another outline. No code in the modules, just the procedure and function declarations and their calls showing the correct data flow.
Yeah, VB makes it really easy because you pass parameters in by value and out by reference. It's very, very simple. It's straight to the point. The default, obviously, if you don't give a parameter, is actually by value. So if you don't give a parameter by ref or by value, it's usually by value. So it does make it really, really straightforward to differentiate. So moving on next.
Okay, I've handed over, Lucinda. You want to move us on?
Yeah, you did.
You're going to move us on to Java now, aren't you?
Yes. Oh, sorry, we didn't do a thumbs up for VB or VB.net.
Yes,
Can you give us a thumbs up if you use VB? Oh, a couple of people. Yeah, not so bad. Okay. So moving on to Java. So within Java, we see the main method, and below that, each of the modules. So looking at those, is there any difference between passing in and passing out parameters in Java? No, we just basically give permission to a method to use the parameters. But what about functions versus procedures? Mm-hmm. Well, in Java, a procedure is declared by using the return void type, as you can see. So these are all procedures. And if it's a function, then you must specify the return type. So for example, in the declaration, so for example here, double, as you can see, obviously, because find average returns, the find average function returns average. Okay, so that's known as a function. So obviously, again, can you give us a thumbs up if you use Java at higher? Yes. Yep. Okay, that's good. I'll give a thumbs up as well.
Okay.
Okay. So apologies, obviously, live code users, if your preferred language hasn't been covered tonight. Obviously, feel free to contact Stacks HQ with a version, and we can obviously add that to the slide.
It would be good to include any other languages, wouldn't it?
Yeah, that's right.
In our document, absolutely.
Okay, so we've also got another feedback slide. So we want to ask you now for any language-specific tips or comments or questions. VB, Python, or Java are on the board. So you can share about parameter passing in modular programs, or in your preferred language as well. So if your language is not listed, live code users, you can just put it in the other at the bottom of the screen. So if you've got any specific tips that you, or even questions as well, on the difference.
By value in and Visual Basic by reference out, absolutely.
Yeah, that's right.
In many ways, that does make it a bit more clear, doesn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. I know that some teachers might use VB or Python in higher, but then maybe might move on to Java. So it's good to know the difference. Obviously, in advanced higher, it's good to know the difference between procedures, or how procedures declared. And
well, while we're filling this in, Lucinda, I know that you have been using Code Academy for some time with your pupils.
yes,
Have you used Java on Code Academy? Is that
absolutely, yes.
case?
It's absolutely fantastic for learning. So I usually get because most of the advanced higher girls are going on to study computer science. So I usually get them before they come back during the summer holidays to actually go through Code Academy, learn Java.
Yeah, between 5th and 6th year.
Yeah, because it's mostly just the syntax, really. I mean, they already know, they already have the logic.
Because they're already VB programmers.
Yeah.
Yep.
So they already have.
What do you think about the learning curve between Python to Java?
Python to Java, yes, absolutely. It is possible to move on from Python to Java. The only difference is, I think, with Python, you don't have to declare a variable to use it. Yes. Well, in Java, it will punish you if you don't if you don't declare a variable, and your variable will not work. So it's a bit more structured, I would say, in Java, and it teaches students to be a bit more structured as well.
Yeah, sorry, I've diverted us there, but we've been getting some useful comments here.
Yeah.
And parameters in brackets, out parameters returned. Yep. Use of comments to indicate reference or value. Absolutely. Yeah, good point there.
In parameters in brackets, out parameters returned. Okay, that's Python, I'm assuming, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. Should I hand over to Connor to see us out?
Yes,
Connor, you there? You ready? Okay.
Ears are burning after those live code comments.
Sorry,
Connor, you haven't typed any comments into that other row there.
Yeah, I'll come back to that. Don't worry.
You're saving your thunder for later. Fair enough.
Yeah, we're just keeping in time. I think we've got about 3 more minutes.
Yeah, I know.
I've been hogging it.
Yeah.
I'll just pop this along just for us now, just a final sort of slide. So yeah, that's going to bring an end to our second session of this programme in terms of software design and development. Fingers crossed you found that the session beneficial, and that you can use some of these strategies within the teaching. I know there's a few of you who have been talking in the chat there. Apologies that myself, Lucinda, and Fiona, we've not had the chance to actually address them as such. But hopefully, in the next couple of minutes, if you're wanting to stay behind, we can address any of those questions that you've had just in a wee bit more detail. Obviously, the main focus of this session was top-level design and data flow, and we're hopeful that pupils are going to be better equipped to be able to answer assignment and exam questions as well. I think, again, looking through it previously, we're all using different programming languages within the school, but we've tried our best to sort of take into consideration each one. I think if we're being honest and we're trying to go through every single different programming language that we're using, would still be going on with this presentation, well into the night. So I think what we're wanting to try and do is, for you taking this away, to consider some of the key concepts or approaches that we've shared, and with the aim of trying to help our pupils to pick up as many marks as they can in the questions. And a key message that we sort of reinforced last session was the use of the marking instructions from previous
Yes.
tasks. You know, we can use them in open book assignments. So anything that we're doing that's beneficial in class that, you know, that has worked really well with one of your classes or with particular pupils, just making sure that we've got that handy for them, especially when it comes to the coursework maybe in February, March time. So obviously anything that we've used tonight, we'll have available to you to share. But if there's any queries, any problems, you know, feel free to get in contact. Tony and Mark are going to be here answering some of your questions. They'll obviously share their contact details in stacks as well. You know, I think I'm probably biased, but I think being a teacher of computing science, the support network that we've got here with stacks, you know, with the shared Glow area or the shared Google Drive, you know, they're excellent resources for us, and it's about making sure that we either we share these resources or, you know, we keep in regular dialogue with everybody. So this here's just the roadmap that we're sort of looking towards for the new year. So I think, and I'll need to double check this, I think should be, if it's software, it's going to be the 8th of January on the Monday. Maybe someone can help me double check that one, but we are looking to try and go towards standard algorithms and either testing and debugging as well. So yeah, that's us for this evening.
Yeah, and that'll be welcome back to the new year, won't it?
Yeah.
Should we just open it up if anyone's got any questions that they would like to?
Yeah, sure. And again, if we can maybe try.
Oh, while we're talking about looking forward, I believe we've got an in-person meet up coming up in the new year as well.
Yeah, that's right. On February 3rd.
Absolutely, and I think it's going to be through in the West. It's going to be in Glasgow.
Yeah. Sorry. Mark, have you got anything on this?
It's looking like it's going to be down and in a minute provisionally. I don't know if that's confirmed yet, but hopefully Tony was going to be able to host it in St Aloysius. I think it's looking between 10 and 1, I think.
Mhm.
And I'm hearing, as if you need any other motivation, there's going to be free food and refreshments. So there you go.
Perfect.
Free food is usually the clincher.
Yeah, it's a good opportunity. A face-to-face meet is always good, isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Especially for single-person departments. I know I'm in one of them, and it's I miss just being able to have daily discussion with colleagues.
And booking details for that should come out probably in December to allow you to lodge your interest, just so we keep an eye on numbers and such.
Just want to say thanks, because this is my first time actually managing to get in, and I was very much a last minute, where's my meeting link? But I was so glad I found all the bits I needed to get here. So I need to go look in more I didn't do the tutorial in advance, and I really like your platform for displaying and working through this. This is something I need to get to grips with.
Okay,
Yeah.
good. Yep.
I think
It was great that you were able to join us.
Yeah, Kirsten, I don't know if you use FigJam. FigJam is, I think, free, but it's kind of similar to this. So maybe, yeah, you can download.
So, yeah, I have a couple of questions.
Mhm.
In the exams, are there any questions that specifically refer to pass by value and pass by reference?
No, it's no
that's
longer
what's
in the course.
going on.
No.
Right. Didn't think
But
so.
again, it just sort of depends, because like if you, for me personally speaking, I still teach it because my pupils need to know it in order for them to be able to do their coursework. Because if they're going to be passing parameters at live code, they need to know how to do it like value and reference.
Ah, okay.
And to answer Jay Brennan's question, just that's in chat, sorry, I don't know your first name, apologies. Line 23 in the squirrel up on board 3B, you're asking about should it not be, sorry, 2 seconds, she shouldn't have any actual parameters, it's only returning the arrays. I think, is that the question? James, sorry. So yes, so just like Tony's just said, we kind of take the view that Squirrel can only return a single value. So because we're getting 4 values out of it, we need to use it as a procedure, and that
Yeah.
would be where your by val by ref kind of mechanic for your particular language would come in.
Mhm.
Hope that helps.
Oh, by the way, Mark,
Yes.
you emailed me that stuff, the activities for hire.
Yep.
But I can't access them because my organisation, South Lanarkshire Council, do not like zip files.
Right. Okay. Did I not,
Archives.
yeah. Have you got a Drive folder I could share it with? Did I not share it through Drive? No.
No, you didn't. Just the zip
Okay.
file.
Can you send me a Google Drive one I could share through Google Drive, and I'll put the zip file on a Google Drive folder.
Right. How? What? Okay. I've got my Google Drive open just now, but
Yeah. Just
Let me have a
if you just mail me whatever one I could share a Google Drive file with, and I'll share that.
right. I'll just use my work one then.
I recently
Cool.
had CompEdNet zip files refused by the Highland Council when I tried to download, which I've never had problems before. And I thought it was because it was a zip file, so I've had to try and get them to unblock the website,
Yeah.
let me download a zip file, but I don't know whether they've just done something new.
They've probably just changed a firewall rule and not actually thought of the consequences, unfortunately.
I blame Western Isles Council and their recent data breach or whatever they were attacked with.
Oh, right.
See the pass by val, pass by ref.
Yeah.
If Python people don't really worry about that,
Mhm.
and therefore they see a procedure in Squirrel in the exam,
Yep.
are they not got a disadvantage because they might not understand why it's passing in values, but it's not passing in values?
I teach in Python personally, and to be honest, I just take the view of basically I tell them at the start I'm quite open. Python only has functions, full stop. However, we do talk about these things called procedures, and I show them a Squirrel version, and I basically show them the equivalent in Python and kind of talk through the mechanics of it. Also, they're never going to need to write Squirrel, but they just need to be able to look at a procedure in the paper and work out that multiple things are being changed or not.
Yeah.
And to be honest, I've never had any major issues so far. I tell them with Python, some you win, some you lose, and that's just kind of the way it goes. But no, I think they do okay with it.
Okay.
Just in my opinion, anyway. Sorry.
Yeah. No, I like I said, I just teach them if it returns something as a function, otherwise it's a parameter. Not parameter.
Yeah,
Just
that's
The only
right.
time I remember my kids having, a big problem was in one of the old exam questions where we had a question about whether it was a function or a procedure. That's a few years
Yeah.
ago.
That's when they were quite strict with it and
Yes.
and really
Yes.
muddied the waters a bit.
And I remember practicing it with them, and of course they all slipped up because we're Python programmers.
Yeah, from our
that's-
writing. Yeah,
That's some time ago, isn't it? That's quite an old one.
from a writing perspective now, we wouldn't ask that question.
No.
Also, they're unlikely to be asked to identify in code an example of a function.
No, very, very unlikely.
They'd be more asked what's the difference between them.
To be honest, they're probably not even going to be asked that.
Oh, okay.
They're going to be asked a piece of code. We tend to like asking what's going on in the code. I think when it comes to subroutines and everything else, I think we'll probably play it safe and stick to formal actual parameters.
Yes. And get them to identify the two.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's been the more common question recently, hasn't it?
Yeah. We've just got to watch that every language can answer the question.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah.
That must be fun.
It's a nightmare. It's an absolute nightmare.
It's so much easier if we all did it in Python.
No, definitely not.
Lucinda, we're not moving to Java.
Why not?
I am not teaching Nat5's objects. It's just
Then you don't have to use objects in Nat5. It's okay.
hello world. Hello world is a step too far at times. Python for the win. Absolutely.
Oh,
Agreed.
thanks to Mark. I've got half my class doing Python hires and half doing VB.NET. So thanks, Mark. Because I've got a pupil.
2
going
seconds.
to
Listen,
school.
I'm going to see if it works again. 2 seconds. Thank you
Yeah.
very much. Here we go.
Can I just ask?
Yeah.
You know how we were talking about formal and actual parameters, and you said that it's more likely to be in the written code in the paper that you wouldn't get them being the same parameters being used. Supposing they're asked about data flow, you'd expect them to use the actual parameter when they're doing data flow if they've been looking at some code then, because the two aren't going to match up, or would they not be penalised if they'd actually used the formal parameter when they're doing their ins and outs because they're looking at the code?
Well, in their in and out, to be fair, we will usually give them enough so that they can complete the data flow table. So, for example, quintessentially, we would usually give them the outs in like a file read or a get data, so that they would have all the parameters to play with. So, to be honest, we would need them to use those identifiers in their data flow table. If they suddenly invent something new as markers, we can't correlate what's going on, and they, in a data flow question, they would lose the marks for that.
Okay.
Right, so Dataflow's got to use formal parameters, I think. Is that right?
I guess at that point, you're not even saying it's formal or actual.
Yeah.
You can argue it's either or, but at the minute, we've given them some identifiers, like the example earlier on, we've given them identifier of names, category scores, and ID numbers. Obviously, when they go to implementation, they can call them anything they like, but so that we can tally up when we're marking, we would need them to kind of stick to that in the paper. Also, in the coursework, they can knock themselves out, and as they do, they can call them whatever they like. However, most pupils are incredibly unimaginative and will just stick to whatever we call them.